College Football Nation. Get familiar with the name Cooper Legault. Cooper Legault? Cooper Legault, did I get it correct? They had it wrong on the broadcast for most of the game. Not that anyone knew it. Cooper Legault. And then they corrected it. Somebody called in. Somebody got a hold of the announcer booth in the network and corrected the Utah State third-string quarterback's name. I think it's Legault. I'm forgetting now that it possibly could be something else, but he did the job, and so did Utah State. And we've got a first bowl game from the Power Five, and we got a first loss from the Power Five, and it should not have been unexpected. Utah State downed Oregon State tonight in the first ever. How many decades will this one last? The first ever Jimmy Kimmel LA Bowl. Welcome to the Voice of College Football. We appreciate everybody being here on a late night Saturday night show and the first big day of bowl games. And if you are going with the underdog, you are a smart individual. You are wise, my friend, because Vegas does not have a read on these games. Basically, none of us have a read on these games. And in some ways, it may get even more so unpredictable as we go on, because we're going to have better teams, therefore better players, therefore more draft-eligible players involved that will be opting out. We've had very few opt-outs, if any, thus far. Solid day of college football, though. Solid day of college football. And they have just kicked off the second half at the R+L Carriers New Orleans Bowl with Louisiana taking over possession of the ball. Just got a punt, just threw deep and complete inside the 10. With, of course, Levi Lewis running the controls for the Ragin' Cajuns, trying to up their final record to 13-1, which should sit them firmly in the top 15 in the country. Maybe not necessarily in the top 25. That actually makes sense, but in the national polls at 13-1, taking on Marshall. But it's a 16-14 game. Let's run through the scores briefly and then fire up the phone line for all of you. So from one end of the spectrum, we highlighted Utah State's third-string quarterback, Cooper Legault, who engineered a win coming off the bench in replacing Logan Bonner as he was injured in the first half, and Utah State went down 7-0 against Big Bad Oregon State from the Pac-12. You really can't say Big Bad Oregon State, can you? It doesn't go in the same sentence, but, you know, Pac-12 team against the Mountain West. And now we've got a stat for you. The Mountain West, in its last 26 bowl games, I don't know if this is bowl games. I think this is a bowl game statistic solely, but we could actually track this, of course, and go through the regular season. And I bet the results are nearly the same. And this is pretty pathetic for the Pac-12. I guarantee that no other Power 5 conference has a losing record in a number of sizable amounts of games against a group of 5 conference. I guarantee it. I guarantee there's no Power 5 conference that is anywhere close to having a losing record against a group of 5. And if they were accurate on tonight's broadcast, they said that the Mountain West is now 14-12 against the Pac-12 in its last 26 bowl games. I think it was bowl games, not regular season games. It might have been total games. Regardless, that's 26 games, recent games, 14-12 the Mountain West. Another indictment against the Pac-12. So you may not have been aware of Cooper Legault, and if you were before tonight, you should be sitting here. You should be here hosting if you were aware of Cooper Legault before tonight. So again, we've got Louisiana looking to go to 13-1. Tough game right now with Marshall. Third quarter game. They're threatening to go on top by 2 scores. Earlier today, you should know the name Bailey Zappy. He is now the record holder for single-season touchdown passes with 62, breaking Joe Burrow's 2-year-old record, and almost got to 6,000 yards, 5,900 and plus yardage in a single season, breaking B.J. Simon's Texas Tech all-time record that was set in 2003. And we produced a video this afternoon. Check it out, because I ran through the top 10 single season touchdown and yardage, passing yardage leaders in the history of college football. Number one, you only need to know one name now. Bailey Zappy and his Western Kentucky team defeated App State 59-38. App State's first ever bowl loss. UAB with an upset win against BYU 31-28. I was told, I did not see the end of the game. I did not see the fourth quarter of BYU and UAB. I was out, but did not see the fourth quarter. I was told when I came home, I wanted to see the final score and then what happened. I didn't look at it. There were other bowl games on, but I looked at the play-by-play and saw that BYU fumbled at the 22-yard line that pretty much ended the game, because they turned it over on down, or they turned it over on the turnover, and then UAB ran out the clock. And I got two looks at this play. Did anybody see this? There might have been 2 minutes left on the clock. BYU threatening to score, completed a 25-yard pass down to the 22. Did that receiver catch the ball? I had two looks at it. I didn't go through the slow motion. I just saw the two angles basically in full speed, and it appeared as though ball in his hands, and then it was out. He never had control of the ball. He didn't bring it in. So my first and second looks would be that he did not catch the ball. BYU didn't want him to catch the ball because he fumbled, and UAB recovered to win the game. And so there's an upset there. UAB over BYU. I can't, unless things break a certain way, I cannot see myself ranking BYU now at the end of the year in my top 25. That actually makes sense. I had them low in the top 25, not against that schedule. Now they lost to UAB. No. 31-28 final there. Western Kentucky over App State, as we said, 59-38. It's all about Bailey Zappy. That's his day. It's his day. All right. Fresno State held off UTEP. How about the Miners? Maybe the one of the more improved football programs in the country. UTEP put up a fight against Fresno State. Bulldogs win at 31-24. And then this Liberty Eastern Michigan game, I saw very little, but that was probably a good thing, as Liberty wins at 56-20. Ouch. All right, let's get to the phone lines here. We've got the two bowl games from Friday. Middle Tennessee beat Toledo, and also there's a game that came right down to the last play of the game, and the MAC commissioner was protesting and had a word to say about the final play of the game in the Northern Illinois Coastal Carolina game, in which Northern Illinois was driving. Rocky Lombardi completed a pass. The receiver was trying to get to the sideline, and there was clearly 2 seconds left on the clock when the player was down, and they let the time run out, and it was a first down. So that the clock should have stopped. 3-second runoff, though, if they were going to spike the ball. So I haven't really went through that and don't know what the commissioner had to say. Just saw a headline that the MAC commissioner was protesting the Northern Illinois loss, the MAC champion loss to Coastal Carolina. Tremendous game. I watched just about that entire game. All right, let's get to the phone lines. We've got a couple calls coming in right here at the Voice of College Football. Who's up?
Hey, Mark, it's the real MVP. How you doing?
It is the real MVP. Good to hear from you. What's going on?
Well, first thing I would like to tell you, Mark, is you got to post the number on the screen.
Do I have to?
Well, if you want new callers.
I thought it was universally known.
Well,
you're right. I will remind everyone before I do, and I just did post it on the screen, but I replaced the previous ticker message, which is letting people know that they can contribute. This is very important on Venmo, PayPal, and Cash App. You can contribute right here in the Super Chat. We love that. You can also bypass YouTube if you would like PayPal, Cash App, and Venmo. So I'm going to leave that up there for a second. We'll get the number up there, but thank you for the reminder, because I often, if I wasn't getting calls, I think it would click, but I forget because we've got plenty of calls. But Thank you for the reminder.
That's a good problem to have, though. That's
It
a good problem.
It is. I appreciate it.
Well, I would like to expand more on the bowl games and the officiating.
Okay.
That Northern Illinois, Coastal Carolina, it was such a great game.
Yes.
It's my favorite game of the bowl season so far. But I mean, you didn't do it justice how atrocious of a call. Not only was it a first down, half his body was out of bounds when he fell. And they showed it on the replay 2 or 3 times. Nothing touched the ground. It was clear as day. Not only that, but then, the judge, the back judge, runs up and holds his hand on the center. So they can't even snap the ball. And then the 2 seconds winds down and the game's over. And they didn't even review it. They just said, the game's over. And we review everything else already. So why can't review the most important part of the game?
Yeah, that was disappointing, and that was completely uncalled for. And your last point in particular, we're reviewing 4-yard catches in the first quarter. And we're not reviewing
a
game-deciding play.
UAB game.
Was that play reviewed?
They reviewed a catch. Yeah, they reviewed a catch, and they UAB BYU, and they moved it from a 4th and 1 to 4th and 4, and it took like 5 minutes to review it. It's like our 3 yards. We're doing over 3 yards in the third quarter. I mean, come on, this is getting ridiculous. And in that catch, with 2 minutes to go, BYU, the guy didn't even have possession, any point of it. I mean, if you play Madden, it looks like that stupid glitch because EA never works in their horrible company.
I'm going to watch this
where he
again.
catches the ball, but it's always bobbling. That's what it looked like. But they didn't even review it. How do you not review a turnover in the fourth quarter with 2 minutes to go? I just don't get it, Mark.
The real MVP. Let's go back to the first play. So if anybody did not see this, Northern Illinois, Coastal Carolina go to the game at some point. Last play of the game, NIU's down by 6 points. They've driven down to the 7-yard line. They've got a 4th and 1 with about 7 seconds left. They throw the ball out in the flat. The runner catches ball. He tries to get out of bounds. I didn't really.
He does.
I guess he gets out of bounds. I'm not as
Mark,
convinced
every
as
announcer
you are.
saw it.
I'm not as convinced.
Every announcer even say that's clear.
Okay, well, I'm not as convinced as you. So there's 2 things to decide here, because it's 4th and 1, so they got to get the first down. They clearly get the first down, and so you're going to rule one of 2 things. If you're the officials, either he did not get out of bounds, and the clock stops to reset the ball, in which NIU would have to be ready to spike it. And if I'm not mistaken, you need 3 seconds to spike the ball. So the game would be over, all intents and purposes.
Right.
Or he did get out of bounds and you reset the ball. You've got all the time in the world to snap the ball. You've got 2 seconds left on the clock to run one more play. Okay.
Well,
regardless of what the ruling was, regardless of what the ruling should have been, your last point is the best point. It's deciding the game. They didn't even look at it. They didn't even talk about it. They did nothing. There was all this confusion, and then the game's over.
Right. And there was something else you can kind of just seemingly overlook that impact. Northern Illinois didn't even have a chance to snap it because the line judge ran in there and told them, hold on, there's somebody substituting. There was no substitution. Why would you substitute with 2 seconds left? So he said, no, you substituted when no, he didn't substitute because you don't substitute with 2 seconds. So they couldn't even get off the snap if they wanted to, Mark.
Yeah, so they were all set to run this play, and then all of a sudden, the officials just ran in and stopped. Yeah, it makes no sense as to why they didn't look at it. So they obviously ruled that he didn't get out of bounds.
Right.
That's obvious. Of which that should have been reviewed because he stretched and it's debatable. We don't get a replay on it that I can see. Let it run through. There wasn't time to run a replay during the game, but let's see if they got back to it here. But the player stretched for the sideline to try to get to the sideline, and it's debatable as to whether he got to the sideline. Oh, here we go. So I think that's a really tough call as to whether he got to the I think his knee's down before he goes to the sideline. I think
okay. If that's what you think, at least review it.
Oh, review it, and don't allow them to set up. And before they started to wind the clock, the back judge just ran in and stopped the play and didn't allow them to run the play. Yeah, I'm going to have to look into that a little bit more. All right, so...
And the announcers didn't explain it for any reason at all. And it just ended. And it's like, well, what happened? I mean, I feel horrible for NIU because, I mean, nobody cares about the Cure Bowl, but, I mean, for them, this is their Super Bowl.
Sure.
But
they're on national TV. They won the MAC championship. They're going up against Coastal Carolina, which has kind of made a name for itself, and they could have pulled off a pretty sizable upset, 10 or 11 point dog. Sure. We're out there watching the games for two reasons. One, entertainment, basically, and number two, to decide who the better team is and who should win the game. And if we can't, if we can delay games for 4 and 5 minutes to determine like 3-yard plays in the second quarter, we should be breaking down the final play of the game. That was just a disaster. Okay, what's our other play? The BYU game. Yeah.
UAB BYU.
Yeah.
It's 2-something left to go in the fourth quarter. Yeah. I don't think it was a catch at all. He never had possession in my opinion.
I don't either.
Now, unless college rules are different than the NFL, and I'm not aware of it, but it didn't even look close to a catch. And nobody brought it up. Nobody brought anything. I was like, wait, what? It's just, okay. I guess we're just moving along. And that's a huge play. I mean, UAB just needed a first down or two to end it because BYU only had one timeout. Now, I know people are going to probably be in the chat saying I'm crying over these. I don't care about these games. I didn't put any money on these games, but I'm just saying that for the integrity of the game and make it more appealing to the average viewer. Because the average person is going to look at this and be like, what the heck is this?
Here we go.
I mean, it's not satisfying product at the end of the day. If the ending is just complete chaos.
I'm just watching the highlights. They didn't re-show it. But anyway, I watched it 2 or 3 times. I did not think it was a catch.
Yeah. Right. And the fact they didn't even review it.
They did not review that play?
Nope.
Oh, my goodness.
Nope. Didn't even mention it on the broadcast, Mark. Didn't even mention it.
What's going on with my former employer? What are they doing?
Yeah. I have no idea, Mark. There was a great video on Urinating Street's channel a while back ago called The Decline of ESPN. It's a really great video. It's only 8 minutes long. It explains basically everything wrong with ESPN. And that's a whole different thing. But I think authenticity is one of the issues. And these games are feeling, it just bothers me. Because I'm sitting here for 2 hours watching these football games, and people pay money to fly, travel to these games. I mean, these aren't expensive for the average person. And just to have it ruined by a crummy call or two is horrible. I mean, can you imagine you take your family to go to the Cure Bowl or what? I don't even know what the UAB BYU, is it the Independence Bowl?
Yes.
go to the Independence Bowl, and then your team loses because they don't review a fumble. I mean, what's that family going to say? Oh, we're not going to go to a bowl game, probably. I wouldn't go after that. Because my Cats were playing in Florida. You know how upset I'd be if I went to Florida? It's like it's so far away from where I'm at. And then just to lose on a crummy call, a questionable call, and they don't even take the chance to review it.
I know you've already said this twice, but I'm just clarifying once again. They did not review the BYU play because I thought they did.
No.
I had to step out for a few minutes, and I didn't see the end of the game. All right.
They should do, you know how on touchdowns they review all plays? They should do the same thing with turnovers, in my opinion. Have a minute or two just to review it, and then go on about it. And if it takes longer than that, just let the play stand. Because I think the issue is not how many replays, but it's the time it's taking. I think there should be a time limit. And after you hit this time limit, a minute 30, 2 minutes, be like, nope, it's a stand. What do you think about that idea, Mark?
On turnovers.
Or just any replay in general. If it's 2 minutes, it stands. The call stands. So if there's a touchdown and we can't tell, but the clock hits 2 minutes, it stands. It's indefinitive.
Well, as long as they're not delaying the game to review every turnover, just like they don't delay the game to review every touchdown, they're still reviewing it. We just don't know it. It's not apparent in watching the game because they don't stop the game and review it. They're just reviewing it, and then they call down if there's an issue.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I would want for turnovers.
All right, man. Anything else?
Congratulations to all the teams that won today. It's a huge win to win any bowl game, especially Utah State for beating Oregon State. Mark, congratulations starting your West Virginia channel with Golden Blue Dude. It was a great first stream. And looking forward to the next call-in show.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Have a good night.
You do the same.
Good call there from the real MVP. Should I turn this other light on? Is that too dark? Got a light around the camera that I typically turn on, but just didn't feel like it. All right. I would like to start a list of what players are opting out. I saw where Eric listed the 2 Oregon players that have opted out. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Eric. What's up?
Eric, what's going on?
Not much. I guess that was serendipitous what you just said.
Yes, you got us started there with the 2 Oregon opt-outs, and the games that we've seen the first 2 days obviously have not had, I don't think, any opt-outs. Maybe there's been 1 or 2 maybe, and I was thinking I would love to have a list of all the opt-outs.
Yeah, I've been talking about this a little bit recently. I don't have a list myself. Keeping up with all the transfers or potential transfers or players that are in limbo, commits, decommits, commits that aren't committing till February that we think we might have. It's just been a whirlwind around the Oregon program. So, yeah, obviously Thibodeau is out. Michael Wright is out. Devin Williams, that's the other big one. He's out. He was our number 1 wide receiver all year. The only one that Anthony Brown seemed to have real chemistry with. So, yeah, I mean, I've been talking with my friends and fans and Oklahoma fans too, and I wouldn't touch this Alamo game with a 10-foot pole, betting wise. I mean, I think more than ever, anything could happen in that game. I wouldn't be surprised if we fell flat, and I wouldn't be surprised if we won. I mean, maybe a little bit if we won, but I think, again, a game where anything can happen.
Yeah, I got to agree with you just in regards to trying to handicap these games. Certainly, I still think there's a decent read on many of them, but I'm basically guessing these early bowl games because of the group of five. I don't have a huge handle on, but as we get deeper, I typically get much better at picking these games. But yeah, Oregon, Oklahoma. I don't know if you're a player for Oregon. I would hope that you're a competitor and go out there regardless of, again, this is always my argument against looking at these bowl games as meaningless and exhibition games. First and foremost, they count. They do count. They do count on everyone's record. So if you're 11-2, you want to go to 12-2, whatever the case might be, it counts. Just like any other game on your schedule, counts the same. Number one. Number two, we're watching Louisiana and Marshall play right now. And I guarantee that more people are watching this game than have ever watched Louisiana and Marshall play this entire season. By far, it's not even close. Now, that doesn't become as much of a factor once we get into the Power 5 games, but still, aside from maybe the Oregon-Ohio State game, I got to think that more people are going to watch this bowl game than any other Oregon game. That's how I would sell it to my team. For one, I would say more people are going to be watching you play football in this game than have watched you all season.
No, absolutely, and I think it's a great argument for bowl games. And I'm not a college athlete. I can't speak to any of that, but I would like players to stay through bowl games. I mean, I don't have a strong opinion on it either way, I guess, or I try to be neutral as much as I can. But another question I just wanted to ask, other than targeting, which is obviously very contentious and needs to be reevaluated, other than targeting, what rules in college football should change?
Other rules that college football should change. There are some rules, whether it be in college or the NFL, that regard the end zone, the pylons, the back of the end zone, all of that I would redo. And it's kind of difficult for me to really go through it off the top of my head. But I know that in watching, so one issue I have in sports is when rules are made up that are not consistent with the rest of the rules that govern that game. If a sideline is treated a certain way, then it should be treated a certain way all the time. And I know that there are, and again, I'm doing a poor job because I'm kind of off guard and I'm trying to think of these circumstances that I've caught during college football and NFL games where I've been like, why is that rule that way for the pylon, the sideline, whatever it is, the plane of the goal line, because it doesn't apply that way for other circumstances. So why is that? It's just like this new kickoff rule. I understand that they want to protect the players. I think we've gotten to a point where you might want to just eliminate the kickoff, which I would hate. But they've gotten to a point where, okay, based on the way the game is governed and the rules are set up, it makes total sense that if the kickoff goes into the end zone and the kick returner deems it not beneficial to bring the ball out, that it comes out to the 20-yard line. Why it had to come out to the 25-yard line all of a sudden about 10 years ago. They went to the 25 just to help the offense, whatever. The 20-yard line was always good enough. So now they go
but it's still a live ball if they don't touch it.
Sure. But
if they don't touch it, that is one of the rules that I would suggest is like they kick it in the end zone, no one touches it, that's a live ball. And if the kickoff team recovers it in the end zone, that's a touchdown.
Yeah, that's consistent with like an onside kick. Sure. It's the same principle. The issue that I have is this new rule that started about 3 years ago where a kickoff returner can catch the ball at the 2-yard line and it goes out to the 25. What in the rules of football make that allowable? That's not consistent with the rest of the rules of the game, that you just get the ball at some arbitrary position on the field where you've given yourself up, basically. You caught the ball, just like on a punt. You catch the ball at the 2-yard line, the ball's at the 2-yard line, because that's where you decided to down the ball and give yourself up. Why that's not like that on a kickoff anymore is ridiculous. It's because they want to protect the players, and they also want to help the offense.
Well, and it minimizes the value of that amazing kick or punt that landed on the 2-yard line. Like, why am I even kicking it so accurately and perfectly if we're just starting at the 25 anyway? I might as well just kick it to the 25, right?
Exactly. So, yes, to extend on your point, there should be a difference between a kickoff going to the 24-yard line and being fair caught and a kickoff going to the 1-yard line and being fair caught. Why is that the same exact play? That doesn't make any sense.
So there's just two others that I wanted to suggest, and then I'll get off the line. I just want to hear your thoughts. One that I really like, I don't think it'd be super controversial, but I like that in the NFL, you can go down, and if you're not touched, you can get up and continue. I'd like to see that in college football.
Yes.
I don't really see an argument against it. The only other, and then the other one is the tackling of the quarterback by the legs and the roughing the passer. I think those are kind of extreme sometimes. You can be falling down as a linebacker or a lineman or whatever, an edge player, and grab the quarterback by the legs and you can get a 15-yard penalty. And that is one that I think seems egregious. But just those two, and I'll be out of your hair.
Well, basically, it's difficult if you stay upright to avoid your headgear slamming into the headgear of, you know, when you're in the course of running and then you're preparing to get tackled, there's a lot of like knee bend and all of that, which changes the size of the body and the configuration. But if two players are just like, if a quarterback's in the pocket, he's standing basically upright, and a defensive lineman comes in and he's basically upright as he's charging toward the quarterback, it's inevitable, unless he tilts his head, that he's going to slam his headgear into the quarterback's headgear. So that's obviously illegal. And now the below the knees is illegal, or anything not just below the knees, at the knee area. So basically we've created a target of the shoulders to the waist, or just below the waist. We've limited the target area for a defensive player, and I don't have a great answer for it, but it's just impossible to play defense. The one thing that has changed, well, there's a zillion things, but the one that comes to mind is unnecessary roughness and late hits on the quarterback. So it was always understood, and in the rule book, that both at the NFL and collegiate level, that an on-charging rusher had a step and a half to the quarterback. If the ball's released, that it was determined, if you're running full speed, it's impossible to stop in a split-second moment immediately. So there's some leniency given to a step and a half. Well, that's been pretty much eliminated as well. Some of the unnecessary and late hits on quarterbacks, I think, I just judge them as being impossible to avoid by defenders. It's a good question. I think it's a valid point that you're making, but I don't, because look at these matchups. Our first matchup was Toledo and Middle Tennessee State. Do you think either one of them should be more, or, this isn't Alabama playing Middle Tennessee State. This is Toledo and Middle Tennessee State playing in a bowl game. Their level of national recognition and acclaim is indistinguishable. It's not like one of them's at some high, lofty level and the other one is not. And all the games have been like that. We haven't seen any national powers. Coastal Carolina was a 10 or 11 point favorite, but their people aren't watching them week to week play on ESPNU and CBS Sportsnet. So pretty much all these teams are in the same bucket thus far. They're lowly recognized teams, group of 5 teams that have a very small audience throughout the season.
Mm-hmm. Do you think that there's a chance that Urban Meyer, now that he's recently been released by the Jaguars, do you think that there's a chance that he could go to Florida State before the season starts? Because I know their fans are not happy with Mike Norvell and the job that he's been doing, especially this year.
I think that any school is going to be cautious about hiring Urban Meyer until some of the stigma surrounding him dies down considerably. I also think that everybody's done firing coaches. I might be wrong, but I would think that everybody's past that point, except maybe some teams that are participating in bowl games. But typically, teams fire coaches at the conclusion of the season, the regular season, because they want to get a new coach in play as soon as possible for the recruiting class that was just signed a couple days ago. Yeah, I don't know that Urban Meyer, Florida State, Urban Meyer wants to go somewhere that I don't know that they have the money at Florida State to buy out another. They're paying Willie Taggart right now. They're still working on $20 million and paying him off. They'd have to pay off Mike Norvell how much, and Urban Meyer is going to want as much money as anybody in football.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I guess if there's like another Rich Rod bowl with Michigan bowl performance, I guess there won't be many more job openings.
Yeah, that's possible. It is possible. I'm trying to think of any out there, any coaches that are on the hot seat that still have to play a bowl game. I'm not really thinking of anyone. Most of them have been fired. But yours would be the Mike Locksley with Maryland. That's possible. I think he's safe for at least one more season. I think he is, but it's possible. That's a good call there. Possibly. Yeah, I'm not thinking of anybody else that hasn't already been dismissed from a bowl team.
Do you think Chip Kelly's going to go to Oregon? Is that I've heard that mentioned.
Oregon hired a coach, Dan Lanning from Georgia.
Okay. My bad, I forgot about that.
All right, sir. Anything else?
Do you think that the American Conference, if they do better than the Pac-12 this bowl season, do you think there could be a case that they're the better conference than the Pac-12, the Americans?
I'd have to look through all the bowl matchups. I think it's closer than it should be. And the American Conference didn't even have a good season, not as good a season as the American Conference had in 2017, 18, 19, 20. Those were really good seasons for the American Conference when UCF was better, Navy was better, Memphis was better. I think it's a decent comparison. If you would line up the Pac-12 from top to bottom and the American Conference from top to bottom, it's pretty safe to say that the American Conference has the best team. I still think the Pac-12 is, I don't want to say significantly better, but decidedly better. But just lost a bowl game tonight, but lost to a conference championship team. So they lost to what is supposed to be the best team in the Mountain West, and Oregon State would be what? I think they went 5-4 in the Pac-12, so they were probably the 6th seed, something in that range.
And do you think it's sad for college football that clowns like Jimmy Kimmel from mainstream media are doing their own bowl? Or do you think it doesn't really matter?
I don't think it really matters at this point, but it does make it a bit clownish. It does make it a bit clownish, but we've got such crazy names on these bowl games, but I was wondering when that was finally going to happen, because I can't think of another game in which there's been some kind of celebrity, and who knows, obviously there's ESPN and ABC, they own the game, and there's a connection there. They're not going to sponsor a game with a celebrity that has a show on CBS, for example. So that had to work out. And it's just, it's just a bit of a stunt to self-promote, cross-promote. And I always thought that ESPN...
I mean, I'd be all for a Steve Dace Iowa Bowl, but I don't know if that'll happen.
An Iowa Bowl?
A Steve Dace Iowa Bowl.
Steve Dace Iowa Bowl. Well, there you go. Yeah. That would be phenomenal. I always thought that ESPN or somebody with a lot of money, and since ESPN owns almost every bowl game in terms of the broadcasting rights, should have a competition, some type of a bowl challenge, and then the winner of the bowl challenge gets their name on a bowl game. The fan.
There you go.
John Doe bowl game. I would think that would a fan would love that, to have their name on a bowl game. The John Doe LA Bowl.
All right.
All right, man. Well, thanks for the call.
Thanks for taking the call.
Absolutely.
Have a great night.
Have a good night.
All right.
All right, let's keep going here at the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, this is Dustin Miller.
Dustin, what's going on tonight?
Hey, sorry, I was yelling earlier that had the radio on and my phone was still on.
Oh, so you called back.
I was in the bathroom.
Well, thanks for calling back. I reached out to you a few times.
I tried to get to my phone real quick, but...
Well, thanks for calling back.
Yeah. Anyway, so first I want to agree with you about the kickoff, especially like with the rule, you field the kickoff inside the 10-yard line and you fair catch it. I think that's BS. That should be a down ball there. And I'd say with the rule the way it is, if you're going to do it, anything inside the 10, if you're going to fair catch it, that's ball down there, or you got to return it. And if it's outside the 10, between 10 and 25, you fair catch and put it at the 25.
Okay. I understand your
point. What do you think about that? That's my first.
I understand your point. I don't want to confuse the players, to give them even more to think about, thinking, okay, well, I got to be concerned with the goal line. Now I got to be concerned with the 10 versus the 25. Just a thought.
Yep. I was actually going to agree or say that too. That's just going to put more pressure on the player to understand where they're at on the field. If they're inside the 10-yard line or not. And then with coaches saying, get outside the 10-yard line. Never fair catch it there. Anyway, also, let's go into some let's go into this game, this matchup with Michigan and Georgia. How do you feel Michigan's offense and defense lines up with Georgia's offense and defense?
I think one of the more important decisions in the game is going to be whether Kirby Smart trusts his two offensive tackles left and right to block Aiden Hutchinson and David Ajabo, or if they're going to generally keep a tight end or a back in to not only chip them, but just max protect. And I think that if I was Kirby Smart, that would have been a conversation I had immediately after the SEC championship game, and knowing we were playing Michigan, to lean on my offensive line coach and say, we have two NFL tackles. I get that, but so does Ohio State, and they couldn't block those two. So are you telling me that we can block them on an island, or do we need help? And I mean, more than a back staying in, chipping on his way to a route doesn't do anything against those two. Are they going to max protect? And Ohio State, I thought, was stupid not to max protect because their tight end caught like a 3-yard pass the entire game. The three wide receivers were doing tons of damage. They weren't being helped by other guys being in the routes. They should have max protected and protected their quarterback. So that would be job number one. I also think that Blake Corum as a change-up to Hassan Haskins is important. He's been a big threat for Michigan. Then he got hobbled with a ankle injury, but he's going to have another 3 weeks to get over that. And it appeared in the Big Ten championship game that he's past his bad ankle. So I think him as a change-up out of the backfield is important. I think that Brock Bowers, the Georgia tight end, is a matchup nightmare, and I don't know that Michigan has an answer for him in the linebacking core or in the safety core to match up and try to cover what is emerging as the best tight end in the country. And I also think that George Pickens, who is just getting back on the field from his ACL, it's going to be important for him and beneficial to him in Georgia that he gets another 3 weeks of rest and rehab to be more of a factor in that game against Michigan. And then the last thing I'll say
that'd be interesting. Oh, go ahead.
Just the last point was the two quarterbacks are pretty similar. Stetson Bennett's probably a bit more mobile and active and elusive as a runner and scrambler, but makes more mistakes, makes more key mistakes than Cade McNamara. So if that continues, that, of course, is not good for Georgia.
Okay, I agree with you with that Pickens. Definitely, if he comes back, I mean, he's coming back. We all know that, but if he can be effective, that's going to be number one. And then obviously guarding the tight end, I don't know if Josh Ross, he's definitely an NFL player in my opinion.
Yep.
But I don't think he can cover Georgia's tight ends there on an island anyway. I mean, he's going to have some help. And also, I agree with you with Georgia. They're going to have to figure out the ends, Jabo and Hutchinson. You're either going to have to put a tight end on Hutchinson with your lineman and then probably pull a running back and hope that running back can help out against the Jabo because they're both equally as good. So they feed off each other. And I don't know, Mike McDonald has shown in the past that he can dial some stuff up where if he goes into the game figuring that Hutchinson and the Jabo are going to get double teamed and probably get shut down, that he can get some middle rushes in there and some safety blitzes off the corners. Well, I think it's a pretty good matchup. I'm a huge Michigan fan, obviously, but I actually predicted before the football season even started, we'd go 11-1. I figured we'd lose to Michigan State, Penn State, Indiana, or Illinois. That was my prediction, one of those games. And we did, but I think we match up very well with them. I think our offense, our targets, the wide receivers, will go out there and get the job done. It should be one hell of a game. Probably a lot better than the Cincinnati Alabama game, but you never know. You know, Cincinnati might be a team out there that we have no clue about. I mean, they did beat Notre Dame. I don't know if that's saying much, but anyway. And then let's see, I got a bunch of stuff go down here. But, and so I'll just end with this. How do you feel about Michigan's future with our recruiting and transfer portal and stuff like that coming up next like 3-4 years?
I think that if Michigan's been able to recruit at the level that it has, top 10 in the nation, sometimes top 15 in that range, without being able to prove that it can beat Ohio State and win the Big Ten championship and get to the playoff, and I'm sure that's brought up and I'm sure it's talked about among top recruits, and they have to sell that. They've had to sell that in the past without proving it. Now they are one of the few programs in the country that can say, we've shown that we can get there. So I would think with really high-end recruits that would be a better selling point than what they've had in the past. Once you've proven your concept, then that goes a long way. I think that especially since the staff is young, although with success comes the issue of losing assistant coaches. So then you have to make great replacements and have to be good at that. So they're going to have to get used to that soon. There's already talk that Josh Gaddis may have one more year in him, and then he's going to be off and running somewhere. I don't know what Mike McDonald's career aspirations are, but so they're going to have to deal with that going forward. With success comes losing assistant coaches. But from a recruiting standpoint, that should be much easier than it's been.
Okay. Yeah, no, I totally agree. Like, I actually was talking to one of my friends. He has a YouTube channel, Ray Lego, on with On Tap Support Sports now. I was telling him, I hope we hold on to Josh Gaddis this season after what he's done. And then obviously Mike McDonald, he's very young, but he's definitely I think kids, you know, especially kids coming out of college these days, are gonna pair well with a younger coach that's a good coach like Mike McDonald and Josh Gaddis too. So yeah, I definitely feel we're gonna lose probably both of them within the next 2 years, probably 3 at the most. But then we got our younger guys stepping up. You know, you got Mark Hart, you got Bellamy, you got Jay Harbaugh, and whoever else we can bring up in there. So I think with the recruits and the talents we bring, and obviously we're going to lose the coaches and stuff like that, I'm hoping anyway, just for the sake of college football, that Michigan and Ohio State, well, Ohio State's been back. They never left. This whole Michigan's back, and that we can be on that competitive level with Ohio State every single year for at least another 10, 15 years of my life. But anyway, I love your channel.
Well, thanks,
Try
man.
to get on every time. First time calling in.
Yeah, call
Great
back.
talking to you. Yeah, definitely. Go Blue, bro.
Thank you, sir. Have a good night.
You too.
Do we have more Michigan fans on this channel than any other fan base? I think we might. Before we take our next call, if you own a small business, are just starting a small business, or maybe you're like a ton of people out there. I talk to people like this all the time that want to start a business, but just never get around to it. Never think, hey, this is possible. I can do this. I am really interested in this. I really have a great idea for that, but it's going to take some financing and I don't have it. and I don't have a great opportunity to get it because of my personal credit. Well, throughout your personal credit, doesn't matter. Our guy Josh Van Horn at Get Business Credit, right here on YouTube. Get Business Credit. Josh Van Horn. He's your guy. So you don't have to give up your social security number. You don't have to have great credit. And he has access to tons of business lines of credit and will show you how to access those lines. So there's instruction and information there and the know-how with Josh to get you where you need to go in building a small business, starting a small business, and getting the financing that you need right away. So right here on YouTube, Get Business Credit, right here on YouTube. All right. DeAndre, BGPO Football Funk, there will be better days. Thank you so much for the super chat. Appreciate that. Yes, the favorites got hammered. I did not have a good day picking football games, picking the bowl games. But I do have a record that says that I will get better deeper into the bowl season when the Power 5 starts playing, because those are the games that I watch and the teams that I know. So we're going to rely on that. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
What's going on, Marcus JT Sports?
Hey, JT. How you doing?
What's going good? How about you?
I'm good.
Man, it's crazy because I come on here every once in a while and I'm like, dang, man, like I've really grown up with Mark Rogers. I've been listening to you since I was in 7th grade, man. Now I'm a sophomore in college.
Oh, man. Really? That's been a while.
Yeah. I started watching you back when I was in middle school. I think it was like the first time Clemson and Alabama had played in the college football playoffs.
I like it. Well, it's good to hear from you. And how's college going?
Good to hear from you. Oh, it's going great, man. How's life going for you? I'm happy that you're having a lot of success on YouTube. I'm gonna super chat you when I get off.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate you just watching for all this time. So it's good to hear from you. What's going on?
So I've been watching a lot of Alabama and Cincinnati previews. I haven't watched yours yet. I'm getting ready to do mine, and I kind of feel like a lot of people are disrespecting Cincinnati, and a lot of people, I haven't seen yours yet, but a lot of people haven't really watched Cincinnati play other than the Notre Dame game, and I feel like not too many people realize just how good Cincinnati is. I feel like a lot of people are giving Cincinnati that Notre Dame treatment or that G5 treatment. They're like, Cincinnati's a G5 school. They'll never beat Alabama. But I believe when Alabama played Notre Dame, they were like a 20-point favorite, I believe. Vegas only has Alabama as a 13.5-point favorite for a reason. And when you look at Cincinnati, I was going back and forth with one Alabama fan. He was quick to bring up the 24/7 team talent composite rankings. And I was telling him, I said, Cincinnati, you can't really judge them based on where they are in the team talent composite rankings, because Cincinnati isn't a school that brings in 4 and 5 stars every year. They're a school that they bring in 3 stars, maybe a couple 4 stars, and they develop them. And a lot of people aren't really taking into account the player development that Cincinnati has done. If you look amongst their roster, they at least have at least 9 players who are going to be projected to be drafted in the upcoming 2022 NFL draft. And I just kind of wanted to, state my case for why Cincinnati can pull off the upset.
So your case. Okay, go ahead.
So my first reason is Cincinnati has the best cornerback tandem in the nation. We already know about Amon or Sauce Gardner. He hasn't allowed a single touchdown in all his years playing college football. Then you have Kobe Bryant, who a lot of people don't know about, but he is also one of the best cornerbacks in America. He won the Jim Thorpe Award. So you look at Alabama's passing attack, they're already without John Mechie. And a lot of people keep coming with the assumption that Alabama is just magically going to have somebody who steps up. But if that was the case, people forget there was a reason why Alabama had to go into the transfer portal and get Jamison Williams. That's because they weren't really all that set at wide receiver. Then you lose John Mechie. So essentially, you're either going to have Jamison Williams being guarded by either Kobe Bryant or Mark Gardner. I'm trying to figure out where the other receiver is going to come at and really do damage, because these are two of the top cornerbacks in all of America. Then you got Myjai Sanders, who is projected to be a second or third rounder in 2022's NFL draft. Cincinnati has really good linebacker play. They really get downhill. They're really good when it comes to getting after the quarterback. One of their linebackers had over 100 tackles. The second one had 88. So you look at their whole entire defense, they're athletic, they're fast, and they're really aggressive when it comes to pass efficiency. Now, I do worry about how their interior of their defensive line is going to perform against Alabama, because I believe they run a 4-2-5, and they have been prone to give up some big gains through the ground. So I am expecting Alabama to have a lot of success running the football. But when it comes to passing the football, I don't really know if Alabama is going to have the success against Cincinnati that a lot of people think they have. Because when they played Georgia, and I've been telling Georgia fans this all year, I was never sold on Georgia's secondary. When you have a good pass rush, it kind of shields your corners, because your corners don't have to guard and coverage for all that long. And on top of that, Georgia didn't face a team that was really able to test them, because most of the teams they faced, they were able just to dominate them up front. Now, Alabama's offensive line really surprised me with how they performed in the SEC championship game. This is the same offensive line that gave up, 6 or 7 sacks against Auburn. I'm still not all that sold on Alabama's offensive line. Yes, they had a very good showing against Georgia, but can we really just go off one good showing and just ignore how this offensive line has performed all year? This offensive line for Alabama has been inconsistent all year along with their secondary. Cincinnati also has Desmond Ridder at QB. And we already know if you're trying to win a national championship in college football, you got to have a superstar quarterback. Cincinnati has that. They have that in Desmond Ridder. They have a guy who can make the plays, who's somebody who they can count on. And I'm not expecting Cincinnati to come out here and, run the football all day against Alabama. I do believe they're going to have to be able to get it done through the air, and I believe that can happen. You got Alex Pierce, one of the top-rated senior wide receivers that is going to be eligible for the draft. Then on top of that, you also have Josh Wild, pretty solid tight end. They have a pretty solid receiving corps, and Alabama's secondary has also been inconsistent at times this season. Now, they do have a really good front seven. Will Anderson, don't know why Aiden Hutchinson was picked over him in the Heisman voting when Will Anderson had the same amount of sacks and had 31 tackles for loss. So their front seven is really good, but their secondary is really inconsistent. And I feel like not enough people are really giving Cincinnati a fair assessment. Cincinnati's team probably is one of the most talented in America. I wish people would stop paying so much attention to the team talent composite rankings, because not enough people take player development into account. And that's kind of my reasons why I feel like Cincinnati can pull off the upset, because I feel like if Cincinnati's offense gets rolling and Alabama gets down and they have to end up throwing the football to win, I think the advantage towards Cincinnati, because then you're playing towards Cincinnati's strength, that secondary, the fact that Alabama, doesn't really have a proven number two. We know how good Jamison Williams is, but you're essentially going against two All-American corners, Amar Gardner first team, saw Kobe Bryant second team. So the more I research and the more I look into this game, the more I lean Cincinnati, even though, you know, it is Alabama. Alabama proved a lot of people wrong in the SEC championship game. But I feel like this is a game where Cincinnati can come in and prove a lot of people doubting them wrong, because this team is a lot more talented than what a lot of people are giving them credit for.
All right, JT, I think you make a really good series of points there, especially concerning the matchups with Alabama having the football. So you make a lot of good points. John Mechie's going to be missed. He's a guy that caught almost 100 passes this year. So it's difficult not to miss him. Ja'Cory Brooks, look out for him. He could make some plays in this game. It goes back to protecting the quarterback, because when Alabama struggled against LSU and Auburn in particular, they couldn't protect Bryce Young. He still had really good games, but they couldn't run the ball. They couldn't protect Bryce Young. And like you say, they somehow fixed an offensive line in a week between the Auburn game and the Georgia game. And they started a couple new players up front and made some changes, and it worked. And I wasn't surprised by Alabama's performance. I guess I was surprised at how easily they won that game. I was not surprised that they won the game, but just the difference in offensive line play in 1 week was pretty startling. So I got to expect that that's going to continue to be worked on and improved. And great corner play is important, but even great corners can't hang in coverage forever. And I just think that if Cincinnati can't get to Bryce Young, that he's still going to have a field day, because Alabama has layers and layers of talented wide receiver. And even though it's not experienced, proven talent, all you have to do is go to the last play of the Auburn game, and Ja'Cory Brooks made a phenomenal play in the corner of the end zone. He only made like 5 catches this year, but when it was a clutch situation in a game that they had to win, he did. And he was arguably the number 1 receiver coming out of high school. So I think that Alabama is going to be able to, with Slade Bolden and Brooks and Billingsley, they're going to find options through the air. I don't see Cincinnati having much offensive success consistently against Alabama. I just don't see it. They're not going to be able to run. I cannot see in any way that Cincinnati's going to mount a running attack against Alabama. I just don't think they'll be able to run the ball. And if you can't run the ball, you're pretty dead. I'm not disrespecting Cincinnati, but understand, JT, that if you look at the history of this playoff, there are typically more blowouts than not. And most of those blowouts I anticipated and predicted, not every one of them, but most of them. And I wasn't necessarily disrespecting. Those are all good football teams, but there are levels to this. I'm going to quote one of my favorite YouTubers. There are levels to this. And I've not made a prediction on the game. We reserve that for Patreon, but maybe I'm giving it away to a certain extent, where I do think that there is a significant talent gap between these two teams. Cincinnati did show us something. They did play one quality team this year, and they went to Notre Dame and won by 2 scores, and that's significant. They better not rely on a field goal kicker. They don't have one, really, if it comes down to that. But they went to Notre Dame and won by 2 scores. So on a given day, but I'm not going to put Notre Dame anywhere close to Alabama's lead. I think what college football has shown us over the last 10 years, and certainly during the playoff era, is that there's a pretty wide gap between being one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the country and being somewhere else. And I think Cincinnati's somewhere else. They're 7, they're 8, they're 9, they're somewhere like that. You might be right, but I'm thinking this is not going to be the best football game we've ever witnessed.
Yeah, and the points you made, like I had the same viewpoint. Like I'm not expecting Cincinnati to have success on the ground unless it is with Desmond Ridder, and we have seen dual threat quarterbacks in the past give Alabama some problems. But I think their defense has kind of evolved to the point that now they're not really going to get caught off guard. But I don't know. I kind of just maybe I'm factoring a little bit more optimism. And I know a lot of people go by the recruiting rankings. I just kind of feel like when you factor in the player development that Cincinnati has and the fact that they have so many guys who are going to get drafted next year, I kind of take that into account also. And then they have a lot of experience. Like they have like nothing but upperclassmen really. And I think Alabama, kind of when you look at the wide receivers, they're hoping for one of their young guys to step up. And, you know, maybe I'm giving Cincinnati a little bit too much credit because they haven't faced the quarterback up to Bryce Young's caliber, and they haven't really faced a team that has really been able to effectively throw the football talent-wise. I don't know. It's just like I'm kind of on the fence. Like I do want to lean Cincinnati because I do feel like Cincinnati does have some ways that they can attack Alabama. But at the same time, like what you said, it is Alabama. But I just kind of wanted to state a claim for, you know, why Cincinnati may be a little bit slightly overlooked in this game. At the same time, they are only a 13.5-point favorite, and I say only, but that's only because, like, when you look at when Notre Dame has faced Alabama in the past, Notre Dame has been an underdog by at least 20. Cincinnati is only 13.5. But I don't know, but I appreciate you for taking my call, Mark.
I appreciate the breakdown. Good stuff, man. You have a good night. Call back anytime.
You too, man. Take care.
Our guy JT calls up and says, I've been listening to you since I was in 7th grade, and now he's a sophomore in college. Wow. Welcome into the voice of college football. Who's on the line?
Good evening, Mark. It's J-Dub calling from Des Moines. How are you tonight?
J-Dub, I'm doing just fine. How are you?
Hey, just fine. JT says he's a sophomore in college. Is that right?
Yes.
Well, then he needs to study some football because Cincinnati in no way, shape, or form can field anywhere near the kind of talent that Alabama has. It's not even close. Not even close. Just go look at the last 3 or 4 years and the top 300 prospects in the country, and how many of them Alabama has signed and how many of them Cincinnati has signed, and you're going to wonder how Cincinnati even stays on the field.
Sure.
Now, I do think that Luke Fickell's a fine coach, and I think Cincinnati's had an outstanding year. But this idea that Alabama, that because Mechie is hurt, which, yeah, of course, I don't care who you are. I don't care if you're Indiana State Tech. If you lose one of your starting wide receivers, your offense hurts because you've lost one of your starting wide receivers. But Alabama's wide receiver room is full of 4 and 5 stars. They're not experienced, but they're extraordinarily talented. And it's just, I just have you look at the history of the semifinals and the playoffs, where we have the Georgia-Oklahoma Rose Bowl, where there have been 1 or 2 of the semifinals that have been close. The other ones have all been blowouts. And I think we're getting ready to see another blowout here. I really do. I'm not disrespecting Cincinnati. I'm just saying that, in my opinion, the gap is just too great. It's too great.
Well, I think JT made some decent points, but like you, I said many of the same points that you did. I think that all you have to do is look at the team composite talent rankings. And if they weren't accurate, I wouldn't cite them, but they are accurate, especially at the top. And the 6 most talented teams in the country, based on what's on the roster right now: Alabama, Ohio State, Georgia, Clemson, LSU, Oklahoma. That's basically been the playoff. And
Right.
yeah, Cincinnati just, I think that we would see even more of a talent gap and even more of a gap if they were thrown in the SEC West and they had to run through these games week after week after week after week after week. Then we would see the depth issues show up as well. But for the one game, yeah, they might be able to come up with some schemes and some matchups to hang in there for a while. But like you say, we've only seen a couple decent semifinal games, and I didn't disrespect the likes of Washington and Michigan State and some others, but it was just clear that they didn't have the talent to hang in a ball game, and I think Cincinnati's right in that same place.
Well, and then I don't want to overlook the fact that you're going to give Nick Saban 3 weeks to get ready for you, and
Yep.
If you took the names away and you gave me Cincinnati's roster and you gave me Alabama's roster, and then you told me Nick Saban gets this roster over here and it's Alabama's, and Luke Fickell gets this roster over here. I mean, hello, Nick Saban, hello. This was Alabama lost 6 players in the top 37 draft picks of last year's NFL draft off their offense alone. 6 of the top 37 draft picks. And here they are right back in the playoffs with another shot at another natty. I think the first game is a yawner. And then I think the exact opposite in the second. I have tremendous respect for both Georgia and Michigan, and I think that's going to be in my opinion, a very entertaining game. It may be one of those old school Big Ten slobber knockers, a 16-13 game, something like that. But I really think the second game is going to be extremely entertaining. What's your thoughts on Georgia, Michigan?
Well, an earlier caller asked me to give my keys on the game, so I'm not going to repeat those, but I do think that we're looking at 2 teams that are extremely similar. They want to run the ball at you. They want to set up play action. They have talented running games. They want to lean on an offensive line. They don't want to put too much workload on a quarterback who in both cases are good. Michigan's quarterback doesn't have a history of making as many mistakes by any comparison to Stetson Bennett. So I think that would be one Michigan advantage, is their quarterback doesn't have a history of making mistakes, and Stetson Bennett does. And like I mentioned to the other caller, I'm going to be fascinated to see how Georgia approaches pass pro, whether they're going to keep tight ends and backs in to protect against those 2 defensive ends, Hutchinson and Ajabo, because they've been ridiculously effective, or if they're going to trust their 2 tackles like Ohio State did. Ohio State trusted their 2 tackles, and they're both going to be playing in the NFL, but they weren't good enough to consistently protect Stroud, and it cost Ohio State the game. And I also think that this Brock Bowers tight end at Georgia is fast becoming the best tight end in college football. He's phenomenal, and he's going to be tough for Michigan to deal with and try to find a matchup that can handle him.
Well, I've been really blessed to be on the sidelines for the entire career of Charlie Kohler at Iowa State. And Chuck is a heck of a tight end. But this Bowers kid is something else. And if he doesn't enter next season as the lead candidate for the Mackey, I don't know who it would be. He's been very impressive. Hey, I know you got other callers, and I'll let you go, but I want to leave you with one thought, and then I'll go and then listen to what your response is. Can you tell me, briefly sum up why it would be, if you think so, why it would be a bad idea, this transfer portal, to reimpose you got to sit out a year if you transfer, like it used to be, where if you transferred, you had to sit a year. If you agree that that's a bad idea, I'd just like to hear your thoughts on that. And thanks for taking my call, Mark, and have a Merry Christmas.
Yeah, Merry Christmas to you as well. Appreciate that. So I don't believe that there's a right or wrong here. I don't believe, some things we could argue about, and I would vehemently say that's right. There is a moral justification for this, or there is not. There is a right or wrong. With this, there is not right or wrong. It's about freedom. It's about balancing freedom for the athlete with what is good for the sport. It's just like the free market system. I believe in the free market system, but there have to be regulations and restrictions, or there would be corruption. Okay. I believe that a player, and I don't have necessarily a great argument for this, but I just think it seems reasonable to me that we would allow these players to transfer one time without penalty. That they would, and there would be an understanding that they can transfer one time without sitting out a year. But the next time they would have to sit out the one season. I just think that's fair and reasonable and balanced to not allow just crazy, even if the NFL. So this is sometimes compared to, and I've even made this comment, comparing this to NFL free agency, but it's not. It's really not. I called it that a few times, and then I thought, no, it's the wild, wild west right now compared to NFL free agency. 90% of NFL players are under contract, and they're not free agents. They have a 1-year contract, a 2 or 3 or 4-year contract. If they're great players, they might have 7 and 8-year contracts. And there's a very small portion of the league that every offseason have free agent status because their contracts have run out. So that's under control. We live in a situation where any college football player at any time can say, I'm a free agent, put my name in the transfer portal. They look outside and they think, you know what, this is 3 consecutive cloudy days in Manhattan, Kansas. I don't want to be here anymore. Bye. Or I don't like these 2 dudes that are close to my locker on the football team. Get me out of here. Or we know that 18 to 21-year-olds don't have the best judgment or the best perspective on life to understand, be patient, work hard, be diligent, do the right things. Your hard work, your diligence will pay off. No. And it's not their fault, but it's that stage of life, and it's been magnified by the culture. It's been magnified by the culture. And again, it's not their fault. It's actually our fault as adults. And it's the fault of technology that has created the society that we have to have everything. How more impatient are all of us today than we were 10 years ago or at another time in our life when everything wasn't just bam? If we have can you imagine, for those of us that are, in the 50 plus range, that if we think back about having the internet when we were 15 or 20 years old, and if we had to wait 4 seconds for a page to load, we would have been fine, but we would have been like, the internet, this is amazing. This is incredible. And now if a page takes 4 seconds to load, we're impatient. Well, what's wrong with this? Let's go. Everything is instant gratification. I don't like this. Change it now. I had a bad meal at the cafeteria. Change it now. My coach yelled at me yesterday. Change this. Go over here. Everything looks better over there. So I don't like that. But at the same time, I think that we should allow these players one time to transfer. I've said this many times. One of the great things that I love about college football is knowing that Desmond Howard always played for Michigan. Chris Spielman always played for Ohio State. There is no compromise in it. They are full-blooded. Mark Ingram always played for Alabama. David Palmer always played for Bama. Bo Jackson always played for Auburn. We'll not be able to say this in the future. We'll be sitting here in 10 or 15 years talking about the great players from 15 years ago and saying, yeah, well, he was at Ohio State, then he went to Alabama, and then he finished up at Oklahoma. Fill in the blank. Chase Bryce, yeah, started off at Clemson. Had that really important pass he threw that saved their perfect season on a 4th down against Syracuse. But then he went to Duke. Oh, yeah, then he went to Appalachian State. We can't say that anymore. I don't like that. But it's not their fault. We live in a free country. We live in a free country. So I would allow them one transfer and then enact the penalty. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line? Hello?
Hello. Hey, are you there?
I am here. Are you there?
I'm there. Hey,
All
Mark, I am a huge fan of you. Let me just start out by saying I appreciate how objective you are and your professionalism. You're great. I'm a Michigan fan. I'm known as Michigan Mike. And I just wanted to ask you a question. Well, not so much ask you a question, but just as a Michigan fan, 7 years ago, we got the biggest Christmas gift we could ever get. We had a wish list, and at the top of our list was Jim Harbaugh.
Mm-hmm.
And we got that gift, and we just thought, "Oh my God, it's all coming together. Things are gonna be great again." And of course, we know it's been a long haul, and but I'm so glad that he finally got over the top, man, and we finally beat Ohio State. You know, most of us have been waiting for that Jim Harbaugh, the Stanford Jim Harbaugh, that went to USC as a 42-point underdog and handed them their can. We've been waiting for that guy to show up in Ann Arbor. And I think the tide has turned. I'm not going to hold you long, man. Again, thanks for taking my call, but I just want to get your opinion on what I'm saying there.
Well, I don't know how long you've been watching, but I appreciate the kind words. Thank you so much for watching and spreading the word. We appreciate that. So much like you, I said the same thing when Jim Harbaugh was hired, that this is the perfect hire. So you've got a guy that is a Michigan man through and through. And I don't think that's anywhere close to being at the top of the priority list. I think that's icing on the cake, but it is important that he understands the culture, that he bleeds maize and blue, that he's going to do everything that he possibly can to get it right and do it right. But here's a guy that's been hired that every stop he took a bad situation and made it a overwhelming success. San Diego, Stanford, San Francisco 49ers, all were in bad places when he took them over, and he took Stanford to a place in football that they hadn't been to since Bill Walsh was there in the 1970s. To think he took over a 2-14 team in the NFL and went to 3 straight NFC championship games and a Super Bowl. It was a slam dunk of a hire. I thought it was the right hire to make, that it was obvious. Okay. 2015 and 2016, I thought, hey, this is working. 2015, they go from 5-7, they go 10-3. He wins a bowl game. They're much better. They go from, again, a 5-win team to a top 10 or 12 team in the country. Bam. 2016, we all know what happened against Ohio State. Did they get a bad spot? Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. Regardless of whether the officials screwed up, they were that close, a credit card width away from going to the Big Ten championship game, in which they would have been a heavy favorite, probably gone to the playoff. And that game may have changed everything. Had they won that game, who knows what would have happened after that? Because what is happening now might have happened 5 years ago. They might have been on their way. So I don't always look at the results. I look at what kind of impact and effect is this coach having on the program. And I tend to not look so much at the results. The results are what count. But to me, when you bring a team to a place where they're a Colin Kaepernick incomplete pass in the end zone away from winning the Super Bowl, some people just say, hey, he lost the Super Bowl. To me, he prepared a team well enough to win a Super Bowl game. He prepared a Michigan team in 2016 good enough, well enough to he can't control the officials. He can't control everything. He prepared them well enough to win in Columbus and get to a Big Ten championship game. So I thought everything was going great. The 2017 season went a bit off the rails, but things went wrong for him, quarterback injuries. Then 2018, we know that they were playing much better than Ohio State until they got to Columbus. And I have always defended Jim Harbaugh based on all of that. Now, I did have some doubts after 2-4, although if you catch me on Steve Deace's Michigan podcast, I clearly stated a number of times on there that I the games count. They went 2-4, but I didn't really take that into consideration. I thought, this is a guy that's fielded top 15 teams in the country this entire time since 2015. I think he's going to do the same thing here. And he's obviously done much better than that. So, yeah, I think he's a really good football coach, and he wasn't afraid to, whether he was forced to or not afraid to, he changed and he cleaned out the staff and he got some fresh blood, some new blood, some different ideas. And what I've been extremely impressed with from a football standpoint, in addition to the attitude and all that other stuff, but in just the execution on the field, is that he and Josh Gaddis have built an offense that maintains a tough identity, a hard-nosed, lean on the offensive line, lean on Haskins in the running game identity, but still it's up to date. It's innovative. There's still innovative type play calling, explosive plays in the offense. This offense has more 50-yard plays than Ohio State does. So he's been able to maintain that Michigan identity that he wants so bad from the Bo Schembechler days, but still updated at the same time. And it's worked. And it's gotten better each and every week.
Hey, listen, man, let me tell you, Mark, as a diehard Michigan fan, I respect Georgia. I respect Alabama. But I love that team that we have. The team that has been playing the last 4 or 5 weeks, even and let me tell you something. Even in our loss with Michigan State, after that game, I was like, oh my God, we got something. We really have a product and we can do something. And the way we rolled off the next, several wins, I believe. I freaking believe. That's me.
Well, I can understand that. I can I can understand how you would believe after what they've accomplished this year. That scene at the Big House after the Ohio State game, regardless of who you root for, if you just love college football and college football tradition and history, was an epic scene to see that. And if you understand the rivalry and understand what it means to Michigan and Ohio State, that game, regardless of what the records are and what they accomplished there, that scene was, again, it was just historic.
Yeah, that was just college football. That's good for college football. And I think, not being a homer, but Michigan, when Michigan is relevant, I just think it's good for college football, period, and so it was great, man. I live in Dallas, Texas. I'm a native of Michigan. I go to at least one or two games every year. I went to Wisconsin this year, and then I went to the Michigan game versus Indiana. It's just a part of my it's a part of my schedule. My boss knows it, So I'm man, Mark, and I'm gonna let you go. As many Michigan fans around the world, I've never been as happy as I am right now, man. I'm just so glad that we're playing good football, and I'm happy for Harbaugh because he's taken so much, man, and he's been so close. He's been so close. That bad spot, or however you want to call it, in 2016, however you want to call it, you take that away. We would have done this years ago. And then I think it was, what was it, 2018? We were actually favored to win in Columbus. But I'm going to tell you what derailed us. That was Karan Higdon guaranteeing a win. Had I been a coach, I would have ripped him a new one. You haven't beaten this team hardly in the last 2 decades, and you're going to guarantee a win? Shut your mouth. You're playing better football than they have. A common opponent, we've done better all year. Just go in there and take care of business. And I think that derailed us and gave Ohio State all the fuel that they needed, and they beat us. Hey, thanks, man, for having me, man. I appreciate your show.
Thanks so much for the
appreciate
call.
You.
Yeah, appreciate that. Call back anytime. All right, we got one more caller on the line. I'd like to hit them, but before we do that, we do have some comments I need to get to, and I appreciate them. Captain Trips, thanks for all the work you put in, Mark Rogers. I hope you and your family have a happy and blessed holiday. Captain Trips, thank you so much for that. I hope the same for you. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year. Thank you so much for that, or whatever, in terms of holidays, whatever your preference there, that you have a happy and safe holiday, of course. Let me make sure that I did not miss anything. Hang on just a second. So I was accused the other day of missing a super chat, and I do. I miss one from time to time. It is not intentional. I was accused of intentionally missing a super chat. If anyone knows me, they know that's the last thing I want to do is miss a super chat. And somebody blatantly just, you intentionally missed my super chat, and why did you do that? And just railed on me. And I'm like, seriously, do you think I want to miss a super chat? You're crazy. So let me just make sure I didn't miss any here. I don't think I did. I don't see anything listed here. If I did, please let me know, but I am way behind in monitoring all the comments, and we need to make sure that we give some time to our friends there at Get Business Credit. So I've got a business here. If you haven't noticed, this is a big deal in regards to my livelihood, moving on from what I was previously doing for 19 years, and really for, oh my goodness, 28 to 30 years in total in television, and deciding to do this with all of you. And we took a gamble, we took a chance, we took a leap, and here we are. So we are going to continue to move forward and hopefully build this out, because I would love to be able to talk college football and do that for a living for a long, long time with all of you. So thank you for all that you've contributed, whether that's just watching videos. Please hit the like button. Financial contributions, appreciate that so much. Share the videos out on social media. Let people know that we're here. We've got a West Virginia channel now. Yes, the Mountaineers. So check it out. If you like West Virginia football, obviously, please subscribe. But even if you don't and you want to help us build and grow the network of channels, please subscribe, because we need to get all these channels to 1,000. It's key. It's huge. But also, if you're starting a business like I did years and years ago, but made it my sole focus about 14 months ago, it was last October. If you're in that same place where you have a passion to do something, but don't know how you're going to get it done financially, get business credit right here on YouTube. Check out Josh Van Horn right here on YouTube. Get business credit. I am telling you, if you want to start a small business, or you've started a small business, or the like, then get on over there and check out what he's got available right there. All right, back to the phone lines. We got 2 calls. Let's take these calls and then move on for the night. Welcome into the Voice of College Football. Who's on the line?
Hey, Mark, this is Blake in Arkansas.
Hey, Blake. How's it
How
going?
you doing this evening?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh, thinking the wheels are turning. You had brought up, a portion about transferring and stuff like that. And I've been thinking about the NIL money and sort of the evolution of the sport and where things are going to go with all this. And I don't have any particular knowledge about like the rules and regulations on the NIL stuff. But, like looking back, you also mentioned history and tradition. And, those are obviously big things in college football. But I think you and I could probably both agree that money and, behind the scenes dealing has always been a significant portion of college football. Would you agree with that?
Yes.
Yes. Okay, good. We're on the right track then. Now that it's sort of become mainstream, and again, I don't know what the oversight is. I don't know what the rules are. I don't know if there's any oversight or really what the rules are. But I kind of see college football going away for a number of different reasons, not just NIL money, not even significantly because of NIL money. But I think that with college tuition, pensions, extra facilities, larger staffs, lawsuits, all this kind of stuff coming up for colleges, I think that it's going to be increasingly difficult for them to keep playing the game, competitively with one another. And I kind of see it becoming like minor league baseball, and just completely removing itself from the NCAA and the amateur athletics. Pardon me. It just, none of it really seems sustainable to me. And I think, like, I'm trying to envision what it would look like the universities lease the facilities out, or the cities lease the facilities out to like a league, a B league, a C league, whatever they want to call them in the future. And that's something that's really weird about football, is unlike hockey or baseball or even now basketball, which has subdivisions of the NBA, football's never really had that on a semi-pro basis. You know what I mean?
Yep. You're right.
What do you think that college football is sustainable as we know it in the future?
Well, we can all think of things that we thought would never go away or change, and they did at some point. So I don't want to say that college football is going to be here 100 years from now. I would like to be able to say that, but I can't say that with any kind of confidence. I understand your point, I believe, but we're so far away from getting to that point.
I don't see us very far away at all, really. I think that it would happen very, very quickly.
If it
like
started to go down that way, yeah, it would happen quickly. Yep. Most things like that happen. They do happen quickly, because once the shoe falls, then one does, then yeah, that's typically how it goes.
Well, it's sort of even kind of happening like with the restructuring of the conferences. You know, everything is getting very, very top heavy. You know, maybe it was always kind of that way, but you know, with like the Big East going out, and you know, now the Big 12 kind of losing its top end, and the ACC is not looking so great, and the Pac-12 is not looking so great, and you know, there's more and more polarization, I would say, for recruiting. It just all kind of seems like it's about to topple over. You know what I mean? You're not following my mind, are you?
Not exactly. I'm just, there's just still a large portion of institutions that make gobs of money, and they love, and think about all the institutions that don't even make the money but still sustain football programs because of the perceived prestige. I could see it get to a point where in 20 years we only have 50 schools playing college football and the rest of them don't, and it's a very, very top heavy situation where just the 50 that make money continue to play.
I'm curious about that, because even the larger schools, you know, the more successful as far as wins and losses every year, I wonder how. I mean, obviously the TV contracts, which that's something, but as far as the facilities and the ticket prices and concessions, I would think that they would have like concession companies bid on the contracts for stalls and all that kind of stuff, and that universities wouldn't handle that. But it seems like a whole lot of money. It seems like a whole lot of insurance. It seems like a whole lot of equipment, staff. I mean, the money, when I try to wrap my head around it, is just outrageous. And I would think that the margins would be small, even for a successful university.
So what do you think would be the beginning of the end, the impetus to bring all this down?
I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, I think it's going there naturally with all the things that I've already said, you know. Once maybe colleges start just dropping them and said, look, we've got this huge facility that, you know, smaller colleges, let's say, that holds 60,000 people, and our conference is going away and it's folding, and we're not sure where we're going to go next, and we can't recruit because everything's uncertain, and the ACC went down, and you know, the Big East, you know, previously, and now the Big 12 and Conference USA and all these, you know, I can't say exactly what it would be, but I mean, the NCAA, the National Collegiate Amateur Athletic Association, no, that's not right. What does it stand for? It's not amateur anymore, right? I mean, they're making money.
What, the NCAA?
They're making money because they're, yeah.
Well, they're not making money from the schools though, so they still have amateur status.
Yeah, I mean, do they really?
They're not earning a paycheck from the school. They're kind of freelancers who are earning money just like anybody in the world can earn money on social media, right, if they can figure out how to do it.
And you know, maybe the domino that falls will be when some of this starts getting out, like some of these higher end athletes, and you know, people offering jobs, or you know, BS NIL promotion contracts and gigs to try to pull these people away. I remember asking you early on in the season. Again, I didn't know the specifics about transfers, but how significant the transfers would be or are being as to the success of individual teams. And as the season went on, I started to pay attention. There's a lot of transfers out there, a lot of transfers that made significant impacts.
Oh, sure.
In a lot of these teams, and it's just going to get worse.
Well, the point that you just made, to get back to a point that you just made like 2 sentences ago, when you said BS jobs and BS NIL, I don't think that exists anymore. And this is my point here. So back before NIL, before this past July, could there be athletes who had BS jobs well, first of all, they weren't allowed to have jobs, but could there be
Right.
a situation where if the schools were going to be paying the players for, let's say, some type of side work or side job, that so-and-so would be working at the car dealership 10 hours a week, and that could just be an underhanded deal that they really don't, and they just give them money. But now with NIL, these are outside companies that want something in return for the money that they're doling out to these athletes. So they're not really BS jobs. They may not be worth a whole lot based on your perspective, but they're fair, they're above board, they're honest. If you endorse our lemonade, if you're Bo Nix, you endorse our lemonade, we're going to give you $100,000. So it's
Right.
It's credible in terms of being
Well,
above board,
let's
at
say-
least.
Right. Let's say I'm an alum at University of Florida, let's say, and I've got a media company or a graphics company or whatever I may be, and I want some hotshot player to come down from Ohio State. I want him to transfer in, and he takes a trip. And while he's touring the facilities, I just mentioned, hey, I'd really like to have you do this for X amount of dollars, and he doesn't have to do anything. I say, I'm going to give you $100,000 for the year to endorse this or Beyond There, or let me use your face for my promo, or whatever it may be. I mean, there's not really any way to say that's illegitimate because they paid for something. I mean, there's always money flying around, whether it was above board or below, going back probably since the existence of collegiate athletics. Now you can do it, and you can be the big shot, and you can tell all your friends, hey, I brought that guy here for $100,000, under the umbrella of my company. Like, I mean, you can do this all over the place in any number of different ways.
The two things that when all this NIL stuff came about and we knew we had gotten to a place where it was going to be legalized and allowed in July, the two things that I brought up that I did not want to see us go in this direction, or that I was concerned would be either allowed or they would just be done underhandedly. And one we've already seen for sure, and we might be seeing the other one, we just don't know it. Number one was, I did not want to see a situation where a player in the high school ranks decided on a particular college because they had an NIL deal. I wanted the players to make the choices to go to whatever schools for the same reason that they have for decades, and then reap the benefits of NIL deals. But we've already seen it where apparently in this Jackson State situation with Deion Sanders and Travis Hunter, where there was a decision made, I'm going to go to Jackson State because they've got an NIL deal. So I'm making a college decision based on NIL. So I think we're in a bad place there. The other place where we might be in a bad place, and if this ever breaks, it'll be a big story, that let's say your school, your athletes at this particular school have NIL deals that total $1 million, but your rival has NIL deals that total $3 million, where you work with, meaning the institution or the football program underhandedly works with the companies that you have for NIL deals to say, we know that you're only chipping in with $1 million, but we're going to circumvent money to you to give indirectly to them so we can sweeten our NIL deals to match or supersede our rival. And hopefully it won't be found out, but we're, as an institution, paying the players but circumventing the money. I don't want to see us get to that place.
Well, the unfortunate thing, I shouldn't say it's unfortunate. I guess it makes us resourceful. If it's possible to do something, I think us as human beings, we will do it. If it's an option, if it can be investigated, if it can be leveraged, we're going to do it, whether it's legal or not. I don't know about the NIL stuff, but you know that that's already happening. You were worried about it, and I'm with you. I mean, when it comes to amateur athletics and college athletics, that kind of thing, and particularly college football, you would like it to be as pure as possible. You would like to think that everything was above board and that these kids were, pure and wanting everything for the right reasons and working hard and stuff like that. But, unfortunately, that's not reality. And I think it's just going to get worse. And maybe fans eventually will get sick and tired of it. I mean, if you take like this kid, Travis Hunter, apparently he was a big recruit. I didn't know anything about him, but okay. So he, let's say, goes to a big school and, he's the number 1, number 2, number 3 rated player, and he's supposed to be something. And before he ever even gets to school, he's got a couple $100,000 in his pocket, right? Well, he gets there and he gets a girlfriend and maybe he's drinking too much and he falls into the wrong crowd. And after his freshman year, he just drops out. Now the college wasted money on him. Somebody else wasted money on him. The fans are ticked off. And what was a great talent and had a whole lot of promise is now gone after his freshman or sophomore year. And he's not worried about it because he's got a brand new car and a house that's half paid for and a couple girlfriends and a moderate amount of fame, and it's gone. I don't know if you're following me, but there's all sorts of ways that this could disintegrate and fall apart.
But we've always had student athletes who had all the talent in the world waste it. So that's not a new
right.
story. Maybe they didn't have the amounts of money thrown
the
at them.
NIL money could exacerbate it.
Okay, true. It could. We'll see. But we've always had, student athletes who had a ton of talent that had the red carpet rolled out for them, and they wasted it, and they wasted their talent, and they got absorbed with drugs and alcohol, women, whatever, or just were lazy and stupid and got caught up with the wrong people and wasted their talent and didn't reach the next level or barely did based on. So we've had those stories littered throughout collegiate sports history.
Right. Have you heard of the phrase deferral of gratification when it comes to human beings and our behavior?
Well, yeah, I just went on a rant a half hour ago about instant gratification.
Right. The phrase. There's a movie they talk about putting a marshmallow in front of a kid, right, little kid, and you say you can eat it now, but if you wait 10 minutes, you can have 2. You can kind of judge how your kid's going to turn out somewhat based on their reaction to that experiment. Well, most human beings are going to eat that marshmallow now because it's a sure thing. They don't even see the future. It's hard work. It's, a whole lot of risk. It's not a sure thing. We don't know if that human being is going to give us those 2 marshmallows. We don't know if they're going to be there. Maybe that was the last one in the bag. All sorts of things go through people's minds. But it's a whole lot easier to take that up front, that welfare, that security blanket of money from the NIL or whatever it may be that these guys are going to get, and to justify quitting or not trying so hard or falling out. I just don't see it doing good things for the sport.
No, I don't either. So I agree with what you're saying.
There's not a whole lot we can do about it.
No, it's America. It's a free market system. And I believe in it. But that doesn't mean that there aren't downsides to it. Well, I appreciate the call.
They're trying to. Yep.
Have a good night.
Good night.
All right. Here we are with Dustin Miller, who called in, wanted to say over the phone that Blake Corum, in my opinion, is going to have a hell of a game versus Georgia, but don't forget about Hassan Haskins and Donovan Edwards. I don't think anyone is forgetting about those two, especially Hassan Haskins. I made the same statement. I don't know if it was on that phone call, but that it would be big for Michigan if Blake Corum did provide that changeup, did have a few explosive plays in the game against Georgia, in which we're only 13 days away. 13 days away from Georgia, Michigan. Oh, yeah, Alabama, Cincinnati. Just give us one good game. Just one out of the 2. I'll take 1 out of 2. Jim is telling us if Cincinnati was in the SEC, they would have 4 or 5 losses. If Cincinnati had Alabama's schedule, let's say, if they were Alabama, consider that Cincinnati, and I'm not saying that they're not better than some of these teams, possibly, but I tend to agree with Jim. I don't know if I'm going to go 4 to 5, maybe. They struggled past Navy. They struggled past Tulane. They struggled past Tulsa. The Houston game was a pretty convincing win eventually, but it was close at halftime, like 14-13 against Houston, what is Houston? The 40th best team in the country, something like that. That's about where I'd put them. Cincinnati would have to play Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas. If they were Alabama this year, they would have had to play Florida, Tennessee, Miami, and then Georgia in the SEC championship game. Imagine, just think about that for a second, Cincinnati folks. And I am fully respecting Cincinnati and what they accomplished this year. And I believe that how do I say this the best way? Because I don't know that based on their schedule that they really earned a playoff spot, but they did what they did all that they could do. They play in a certain conference. They can't help how good or bad the conference is. They scheduled Indiana and Notre Dame. But let's not necessarily credit them for scheduling Notre Dame and Indiana with the thought that they were doing it to reach a college football playoff or impress the committee. They scheduled this Notre Dame game like 10 years ago. There was no college football playoff. They scheduled the Indiana game in 2014, the year of the college football playoff, and nobody was scheduling Indiana in 2014 thinking about a college football playoff resume. So let's not credit Cincinnati too much for having this foresight that, oh, we're going to schedule tough non-conference games to build a playoff resume. They didn't schedule it because of that. They scheduled it for money. They scheduled it so they could go to Notre Dame and make a lot of money, and Indiana and make more money. Okay. But man, if Cincinnati had to play Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Florida, Tennessee, Florida when they were playing well early in the season, in Georgia, in Miami, yeah, maybe you're right, Jim. Maybe 4 losses. That's how many teams. Texas A&M, LSU, Ole Miss, Mississippi State, Arkansas, Auburn. I didn't throw in Auburn. There's 6. Florida, Tennessee, there's 8. Georgia, 9. Those 9 teams are all capable of beating Cincinnati. I'm not saying they're better. I'm saying they're all 9 of those teams, all 8 teams that Alabama played in the SEC, plus the championship game, plus who am I missing? I missed somebody in there because they played the 6 division games. Anyway, they played 8 SEC games, plus the championship games 9, plus Miami's 10. There are 10 teams on Alabama's schedule that could beat Cincinnati in a given week. Not saying they're better. I'm not saying that Cincinnati wouldn't beat Tennessee most of the time, but if they can struggle as much as they did against Navy, Tulane, Tulsa, on down the line, they could lose to Tennessee on a given night. Tennessee's talent's just as good, if not better, than Cincinnati's. If you believe in the talent rankings, if you believe in recruiting, and Florida, and Arkansas, and on down the line. So Cincinnati's not going to win all those games. They probably would be 8-4. I'm with you, Jim. So does Cincinnati. Should they be in the playoff? They did everything they could. So I believe in. I was campaigning for UCF at the time. We've got a big problem with college football and scheduling. We've got a big problem, and with the playoff, we need to expand the playoff. Allow the Power 5 to dominate the playoff and give the one spot to the group of 5 and give it to them every year. Just give it to the best group of 5 every year. Or tell them, go play your own playoff. And maybe that should be determined by giving them a playoff spot for about 5 years and then saying, you know what? We've given you a playoff spot for 5 years and the average score is 42-14. So bye. Go play your own playoff. Appreciate the super chat coming in from Dustin again here. Mark, did you put the Michigan helmet over your right shoulder on purpose to black it out? LMAO. I see you still got your Buckeyes on top. Ha ha. JP. Just. It's not a JK. JP. Just. I don't know. All right. You know what? We're going to, I've answered this question many times when people ask me about the helmets, and I just usually the helmets are wherever they are. I don't even think about it. Except for if I'm recording a segment on Clemson, then I'll put them somewhere where they're prominent, or I'll clear the whole shelf and just put the Clemson helmet there. But the rest of the time, they're just wherever they are. But I got to say, when I sat down tonight, I looked at the shelves and I thought, well, it's bowl season. It's bowl season, so we only want bowl teams on the shelf. So Florida State, Texas, Washington, gone. I put them on the side here. You probably can't, you can't see them, I guess. I put them on the side since they didn't make a bowl game. That's what I did. Okay, we're going to put Ohio State way back there. How about that? Dustin, do you like that? All right. Don't want to miss any other super chat comments because somebody may accuse me of intentionally missing their super chat. Which, if you knew who that was and you knew the history of our back and forth, you would not be surprised. Man, a lot of comments. Thank you for all the comments. Sorry I can't get to them, but you guys are talking amongst yourselves. Jesus, thank you so much for the super chat. It's much appreciated. If Cincinnati was in the SEC and had 5 losses, ESPN and the committee would find a way to shove them in as one of the 4 best teams. Enough said. Huh? I'm lost. Sorry, Jesus, I'm not getting your point. If Cincinnati was in the SEC and had 5 losses, they would be Tennessee, and Tennessee's not being put in the playoff. If Cincinnati was in the SEC, they would no longer be a team that some people would say we need to get them into the playoff because they play in the group of 5 and we won a group of 5 rep, and let's take. Am I missing something here? If Cincinnati was in the SEC and had 5 losses, ESPN and the committee would find a way to put them in. They would no longer be the Cincinnati that they are now if they were in the SEC. They would cease to be the underdog story, the king of group of 5 football if they were in the SEC. But thank you for the super chat. And I think we've hit. Yes. Somebody actually knows who stated that about me dodging super chats. Say anything you want about me, but the last thing that I'm doing is dodging anyone. I sit here and I take phone calls like 3 or 4 or 5 times a week and answer everything I possibly can get to. So there's nothing I'm dodging. So no Cincy helmet. Nope. Jackson State, no helmet. Ohio State's the 4th best team. I believe so too, Dave. I think Ohio State is the 4th best team. Should they be in the playoff? No, they did not earn it. Just playing. Thank you, Michael. Thank you for that. Appreciate that. I couldn't figure that out. Yes, I believe I'm on record as saying this. I believe the 4 best teams in college football are in order, now that I've seen the SEC championship game, I would say Alabama, Georgia, Michigan, Ohio State. And then after that, it would be tough for me to figure out of Notre Dame, Cincinnati. Who's next in the SEC? Ole Miss. Utah's playing some really good ball right now. See, they're an interesting case. Utah playing against really good teams. If I knew right now that Ohio State's going to show up and be Ohio State in the Rose Bowl, I'm going to be very curious to see how well Utah stacks up. And I'm not going to make any excuse. I'm on record. I will say this right this second. I will make absolutely no excuses for Ohio State if they lose the Rose Bowl. Now, to be fair, I may say, I don't know if they were motivated, and they were missing 5 great players that all opted out. That's just the truth. But I will not say, they lost because these guys sat out. But I think we can conclude Iowa State's not as good a football team now that Breece Hall, who's arguably the best running back in the nation and certainly in the top 5, is not playing. That's just truth. But that doesn't mean we make excuses for Iowa State losing the bowl game. They are still Iowa State. They're going to show up. They're going to replace Breece Hall with a guy's name who I can't pronounce. I don't know how to pronounce it, but he's got a long, really involved last name that's going to take over for Breece Hall. That doesn't mean you can do both. You can lay out reasons and say, these may be reasons why this team is going to lose this game or did lose this game. And some of them may sound like excuses, but they are legitimate reasons. But in the end, they lost. They still had to show up with the players that they had, and they lost. I hate to hear about, in particular, when Georgia lost to Texas in the Sugar Bowl. Well, Georgia didn't want to be there. They didn't care because they lost the SEC championship game. They should have been in the playoff. They wanted to be in the playoff. They thought they were going to be there, and that's why they lost to Texas. You know what? I don't want to hear that. Because if those players are real competitors, it's the Sugar Bowl. It's the freaking Sugar Bowl. You're on national TV. You have no excuses. And I think that game got a little amplified because I think Georgia players actually went on social media and made excuses and said, we didn't really bring our best and we really didn't show up. And you know what? Shut up. Shut up. Don't tell us that. You sound like a whiner, a complainer, an excuse maker, and don't live your life like that. There was a game to be played, and you lost. I think it's actually more credible. I actually have more respect thinking that Georgia, in this case, and any other team like this in this situation, that they say, you know what? We showed up, we tried our best, we did our very best, and we lost. And they own up to the loss. I have more respect for them thinking they're competitors. Okay, they showed up, and they were not the better team that night, and they lost. I have more respect for that evaluation of the game than I do, they were a lot more talented, they were better, but they just didn't care and show up. You know what? Then I don't have a whole lot of respect for you because you gave up. You're not a competitor. You don't have pride in your work, in your play on a national stage. And you're just going to make excuses. Okay. We, I believe, have come to the end of the line. Do one of these things for me. Go over and subscribe to the West Virginia channel, or subscribe to any channel that has not hit 1,000 subscribers. 1,000 subscribers is key on YouTube. Let me explain something else, and if I can hold the audience to a certain extent. I know when I wrap this up, the viewership just goes, I understand that. Got other things to do. But let me explain something. It is always my intent when bowl season comes around, as soon as the conference championship games are over and it's bam, bowl season, and we've got our bowl announcements. I am so excited about bowl games. I love to hear Kentucky's playing Iowa and Penn State's playing Arkansas and North Carolina and South Carolina. I love all these bowl matchups. Even these teams that I don't watch during the regular season because I don't have time. Marshall and UAB, I watched everything I possibly could, except for running out for an errand for like 30 minutes. I watched from noon for 11 a.m. I was up till like 6 o'clock in the morning, and I set my alarm for 10:45 to be up for the 11 a.m. kickoff of the App State Western Kentucky game. So I love the bowl games, but especially when the teams that I really know well and know the personnel start to play. So I want to preview all the bowl games. And I know that I've stated we're going to preview all the bowl games. This is the issue. We previewed all these group of 5 bowl games and nobody watched them. I need like 3,000 or 4,000 views on a video for it to be worth. That's about what I average, 3,000 to 4,000 views per video. So if I'm cranking out videos and sitting here for hours cranking out videos on group of 5 bowl games and like I'm getting like 200 views. Okay. It's not just a waste of time. It also hurts the channel. That's the problem. It hurts the channel because you know what YouTube does when I post videos that nobody watches? YouTube analyzes it this way. This channel has 32,000 subs and only 200 people watch that video. And then the next video, only 300 people watch that video. And if I crank out like 3 or 4 straight like that, you know what YouTube does? They shut the channel down. Now I'm still here. We still have a channel, but they don't circulate the videos. They basically say, this guy produces bad videos. We're not sending them out there. So understand that I can no longer produce videos on unpopular subjects, unpopular teams. I just can't do it. I have to take those and put them somewhere else. I need to put those on the team channels for the teams that we have channels for. But I can no longer do a Louisiana Marshall video and have 200 people watch it because YouTube just destroys and my views just go, they go even worse because YouTube won't send my videos out into the traffic to be watched. So I have to stick with Ohio State and Michigan and USC and Lincoln Riley and Billy Napier and anything that's people are talking about and thinking about. So all those big stories that come out, I've got to hit on them. Okay, right now, I've just worked on some stuff considering an 8-team playoff. So taking the current college football season, I have worked out what an 18 playoff would look like and a 16-team playoff. So I'm going to cut this video. I was going to do it tonight, but I think actually since I got to get up at like 8:30 in the morning, I'm not doing it tonight. But I'm going to be producing videos that I think people will watch and are interested in, the kind of stuff that you guys like to see me typically produce, analyze stuff like 18 playoff, 16-team playoff. I also did a very successful, and I appreciate everybody for watching my Cincinnati and Alabama breakdown by the numbers because it's got about 25,000 views. So when I do a Cincinnati, Alabama preview and it gets 25,000 views, or I do a Lincoln Riley video and it's got 64,000 views, or just about anything I do that says Ohio State or Michigan on it is going to get 5 to 10 to 12,000 views. I can't do a Wisconsin video and Minnesota videos and 300 people watch them. But I want to do Wisconsin and Minnesota videos. And I love when I got my Minnesota people that say, hey, thanks for doing Minnesota. And I'm thinking, yeah, can you help me get more views? Because I do Minnesota videos and it's killing my channel. Because again, it's not all about just that nobody watched that video. It's more about YouTube is not going to promote my videos. So if that makes sense and anybody's listening to that. But much like the Cincinnati, Alabama by the numbers, I did a statistical breakdown in comparison of Cincinnati and Alabama. I've also done 5 pages of Michigan and Georgia So I'm going to get that out soon because that's actually a better matchup for obvious reasons. And I should have done this one first. But Cincinnati or Georgia, Michigan, we got that coming out here soon. And the 8-team and 16-team playoff. And if you guys have any suggestions for videos you want me to do in the off season, once we get to the off season, believe me, we are going to go crazy on all sorts of things that you guys request all the time about all-time rankings and quarterback rankings and coaches rankings. And I'm going to rank offensive linemen. I'm going to rank the conferences. As soon as the season is over, I'm going to rank 1 to 130. We're going to do our 1 to 130 that makes sense. Beyond the top 25 that actually makes sense, we're going to do 1 to 130. Now I'll do my 2 early top 25 for 2022, in which I did put Georgia number 1 for 2021, way back when. All right. People are asking questions. John, Mark, you're killing too many for us. Learn how to use WordPad documents, man. Oh, okay. I got you. Yeah, I do most everything on my laptop, which I'm going to buy a new one here pretty soon. This thing is, I have beat this thing into the ground. I've done so much work on this for the past 6 or 7 years. This is like a 2015. I've got to get another one. Yeah, I'm killing trees. The trees are fine. I live in Connecticut. There's more trees than you could ever imagine here. So, dependent fanatic, you're covering the season, cover the season. Gotcha. Swampy, if Mark allows Cheryl to type on, then it hurts the Mark Rogers brand. What? Swampy, no, do not say anything bad about Cheryl. Cheryl's untouchable. Come on, Cheryl's awesome. I don't even know what you mean by that. Dustin, yeah, just playing my man. That was explained to me by Michael. Thank you, Dustin. Put that winged helmet on top. Haha, go blue. Well, for your contribution there, we will. We've never seen Michigan play Clemson. I don't think they've ever played, have they? We would like to see that. Yes, tune in the off season. We have a great time in the off season as well. Michael, Mark, when are you doing the Purdue-Tennessee preview? Okay, Michael, did you hear what I just said? If I do a Tennessee-Purdue preview, even though those are pretty big football programs, I can almost guarantee I would hope that I would be surprised at how many people would watch that video, but I don't think a whole lot of people would. And I can't do videos anymore and kill the channel. There we go. This TikTok thing is out of control. I've got something on my phone where you guys probably have the same thing. When I go to Facebook, they give me this scroll of like videos, and most of them came from TikTok, I think. Well, they wouldn't be, Facebook wouldn't be promoting TikTok videos, or maybe they would. Maybe people take their TikTok videos and put them on Facebook, whatever it is. I'm like, seriously, like, it's unbelievable. Like, this person got 8 million views for just lip syncing a song. I can do that. You can do that. We all can do that. Behave for Mark. Like, share, and subscribe. Yeah, I got to just, this is what has to happen. So Red Wine 65's got a good point here. So I've got to do the videos on the teams that bring the views. This is going to bother me, so I'm going to turn it around. But it's like this. Let's say we know that all the teams that we talk about in the Power Five have a semblance of fans. So Wisconsin, most Wisconsin videos I do don't do well. But that doesn't mean I don't think that there are tons of Wisconsin fans out there. Shoot, 2 to 3 million people probably watch Wisconsin games every week. Their average TV rating probably brings in about 2 to 3 million people. and a portion of them watch digital media and want to see Wisconsin coverage. They just don't know I exist. So it's a balance between producing Wisconsin videos that nobody watches here versus thinking, okay, if I continue to produce Wisconsin videos, then eventually I'll get those people in here. So there's a balancing act. Swampy McGee, be good. Be good. Why? Swampy, we love you, but no. Why are you arguing with Cheryl? No, don't do it. Please. Swampy, what's going on? What's the problem? Nick, thank you so much for that. I appreciate that. Uncle Rico, you were right. I need to reel it in. I'm wasting my time. I'm just pounding my head against the wall about talking about certain teams and topics and games. Like, you know what I would really want to do on a day like today? I watched all those games and I was working on other stuff. I would love to do a recap, instant analysis. If you would look back on previous seasons, I did instant analysis of the New Mexico Bowl and the Las Vegas Bowl and the New Orleans Bowl. I would do all those because that's what I like to do. But nobody cares. Nobody's watching that. Thank you, Peanut Cash One, Roll Tide, hit the like button. Appreciate that. Dependent Fanatic, thank you so much for your support. I always appreciate that. Yes, my natty matchup preseason was Alabama, Georgia with Ohio State and Notre Dame. They came that close. I was that close to all four. Didn't get in all four, but that was my national championship pick. I had Georgia winning an epic game against Ohio State and Alabama blasting Notre Dame. Thank you, Tony. Appreciate that. That would be an interesting one right there to Real MVP, a recruiting rankings video. So here's another thing. I did a National Signing Day report on, oh my goodness, Michigan, UCLA. Oh, I don't even want to go through all of them. Anyway, tons of them. And they didn't do too well. But to go through the rankings, I'm trying to think how I would do that without just reading off the rankings, which nobody wants to see. You can all look up the rankings, but I've got to put up, I got to put together some kind of take on that. So I think that's a good idea to Real MVP. That might be something that will do well. Swampy, can you please stop it? We love you being here. You know that. You've been here for a long time. Just, I don't know what your problem is. Michael, 116 in the stream, 74 likes. Smash the like button. Always helps Mark's analytics. And keep this in mind. If there are 116 in the stream, I guarantee over 1,000 people have watched and only 74 likes. So that's only like 7% of the people. So if there are any YouTube gurus out there that can tell me how to blow this channel up, let's do it. So we're doing well, we're growing, but we could explode. We do this the right way. The other thing that I've been doing recently is I've gone out onto Facebook and I've joined every Miami football group I could find. I joined every Nebraska, every Ohio State, every Michigan. I started there with those four. And I've just been going on there, posting the videos every so often. Not like I'm not going to bother those people with every video, but just basically make a post and say, hey, we got our Nebraska show coming up Tuesday night at 6 Central, blah, blah, blah. So that's another thing I've been doing is going on Facebook and joining Facebook football groups. Swampy, I'm not going to read every one of Cheryl's posts. Please, just be good. Get along. Just get along. I don't want to police the chat. I really just don't. The Bird's Word tells us that Texas State signed 0 high schoolers on signing day for the second year in a row. Have you seen that? I did know that about last year. I didn't realize that this year. I did not realize that this year. That is weird. Yeah. And so they just got all JUCO players, right? JUCOs and transfers. Yes. What I love, Dustin, is that people take forever to figure out that I'm an Ohio State fan, and probably by saying this, like another 20 people are going to find out that. And I don't hide from it. I don't keep it under wraps, but I don't publicize it because I want people to try to figure it out, or just people just to listen to me. Dustin, don't tell us we are a waste of time, Mark. When did I say that? We love you, man. Something on YouTube. I'm just kidding, man. What you got to do, bro. Get your money. No, I didn't mean that. I hope I didn't say it that way. I just mean that I can't waste my time on certain subjects and teams, even though my goodness, I used to do like videos, I'm talking like 5, 6, 7 years ago, where if I had an Nebraska guy on and we would talk about, prior to spring practice, we talk about every positional unit, and then I'd cut it all out and I'd post a Nebraska offensive line preview. I love that kind of stuff. Like, I'm a nerd. But I realized that, you know what people want to watch? I posted a Lincoln Riley video about him possibly getting in trouble with the NCAA, and it's a valid concern based on some things that are out there. And that is my highest viewed video ever on this channel. My most viewed video ever for the last few years was Ohio State, Michigan post from a couple of years ago. It was around 45,000 views. But that one this Lincoln Riley video from only like a week ago is at 65,000 views, because I don't know, because Lincoln Riley just got hired a few days before that. Obviously, it's being searched, and I don't make clickbait titles, but based on the conversation, it was about Lincoln Riley possibly having Oklahoma coaches at the time still on Oklahoma time and payroll working for him at USC. And we just had that conversation that there are some reports and evidence out there of that being an issue. And so I put something about, is Lincoln Riley already in trouble? Something like that. Get out of the John Boy watched it. Somebody also do Bama videos. Dave, we do Bama videos, don't we? Dave, you also need to realize that we've got an SEC channel. So a lot of the stuff I do on Bama is on the SEC channel. So make sure you're subscribed over there. My goal, and I'm getting away from this, unfortunately, I want to be able to produce enough of the like instant analysis reaction videos. Let's say Kentucky hires a new offensive coordinator, Tennessee fires its defensive coordinator, that kind of stuff, and put that on the team channels. But here on the main channel, I want it to be about like national topics, like playoffs and rankings and all that kind of stuff. What is get out of the John Boy telling me? What's the last thing you said? Something I watched. I don't know. Will says, Mark, you should do some clickbait so you can make more money and grow more. I don't mind doing that if it's legit, not clickbait. Like I'm not going to put anything in the title that's a lie to get people to click on it. But there is a strategy to naming videos that make it more interesting, intriguing. Ask a question, make a bold statement. Yes, I need to do that better. Dustin, how would I get a hold of you personally? So it's always MarkRogersTV at Gmail. MarkRogersTV at Gmail. All right. That would be awesome. Thank you so much for that. All right. Anything else? All right. I think we're good. Tony, thank you. Appreciate that. Coaching staff update videos. I've got a ton of those out there. They're just not going to be on this channel. I need to get away from team-specific stuff on this channel, unless maybe it's Ohio State and Michigan, because those do well, period. But I need to get away from, like, the last couple of days, I put Tennessee videos on here and Texas A&M and Virginia Tech, and they don't do well, and they hurt the channel. I got to keep those on the team channels. But when I don't have anything to post on the main channel for a particular day, that's when I start putting those videos on here. But I'm going to try to keep this. I want to keep this uncluttered. This main channel. All right. Appreciate it, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Maybe I'll go live tomorrow. Definitely will on Monday. So by Monday, we will definitely be live with more bowl coverage and talking to you about the playoffs and everything else right here at the Voice of College Football. Subscribe to a channel that's not at 1,000 subs, preferably Notre Dame, USC, West Virginia. One of those. All right. Appreciate it, you guys. You guys are amazing. I'm here talking to all of you and not to the wall and just to the camera because you're here. So you guys grow the channel, build the channel. You're the reason the channel is here. So thank you so much for being here, and we will see you soon.